Hello everyone and welcome to this CGVinny live stream coffee break number 8. I'm super pleased to be with you today to talk about Substance 3D Sampler. So this is following all the introductions that I've made so far. In the previous live streams I've covered Substance Designer, Substance 3D Painter, Substance 3D Stager, and missing we have Sampler, which is missing, and Modeler. So today, this is Sampler. It's special for me because I was waiting for the latest update, which came with new feature. So before to start, I'd like to explain a bit what is Sampler. So this is one of the tools from the Substance 3D collection, of course. Also, I'm going to put myself like this. You see that I can see the chat. So at any point, if you have any question, don't hesitate to fill the chat. First, you can say where you are watching from. I'm always interested by that. So Sampler is a tool that we released a few years ago. At first, it was called it was called Alchemist. And then we decided to rename it to make sure that all our software ends with R. So Sampler, Painter, you name it. This is a tool which was made at first to create materials, and it's still an efficient way to create materials and substance materials. And at this time, many people were asking us why creating a new tool while we have Designer, which is made to make materials. And it's true, you can make almost everything with Substance 3D Designer. It's super powerful. Yet it's another philosophy. I would say that Sampler is a level of abstraction above. If you compare with toys, I'd like to say that Designer is like Legos, where you have like atomic elements that you can assemble together to give something, up to a material, a filter, or whatever you want to create in Designer. In Sampler, it's more Playmobil, for example, where you already have pre-made elements that will allow you to reach your goal faster. So obviously, most of the tools which are there are made within Designer, but once again, while it can take a lot of nodes to blend two materials within Designer, here in Sampler you will see that it's extremely easy. So this is also extremely focused. We tend to create tools which are targeting industries, like it can be games, but also fashion, for example. So we really want people to focus on their objective. So I would say that both are complementary. If you want to assemble stuff really quickly, Sampler is definitely an interesting tool. But it does also something different that we have been introducing a few years ago. We have a philosophy that Sampler is a bit like the bridge between the real world and the virtual world, the digital world. Why? Because we made a series of tools which allows you to digitize the physical, the real world, whether it's materials or environment lighting, or recently we also are able to import, to digitize 3D objects with photogrammetry. So in this live stream, we are going to explore everything. So let's start right now. I'm going to share my screen like this. And this is the latest version. If you are installing Sampler for the first time, you may have a welcome screen instead of this. If you install the latest version, you will have this. So you have this screen which say, okay, what's new? So sorry, in the latest version, we have a new image to material. We are going to explore that, but this is something which lets you create a full material from an image. And the latest versions, thanks to artificial intelligence, really gives incredible result. We are going to test that. Then following this, always using artificial intelligence, if I'm not wrong, yeah, I think this one as well. We are able to upscale images, meaning that you can start from a 512 pixel image and upscale up to 4 times, which means 2048 in that case, while increasing the detail that you will have in your bitmap. So this is a great tool as well. And following this, we also added a tool that will manage the fact that now you will be able to work at multiple scale within the same document. Because if you import a low resolution image and you convert it in a high resolution one, of course the scale in the document has to follow. Now, this is the starting screen that you will have each time you open Sampler. So if you have followed my previous live stream, you will recognize it's almost the same if you compare to Painter or Stager, for example. Even Designer, you have this right now. So on the top left, the usual suspects, like to create a new document or open a new one. Here we are actually not talking about document, but project. We'll see why. This is the case in different tools, where I think in Painter as well, we say project. Then you have the home. The first part is the home here, which gives you first a link to learn, and then the latest project that have been opened. At the bottom one, you have some useful links, like to get more information about Sampler, to go to the documentation. And here you have like the version number and a nickname given by the Substance 3D Sampler team. You have to know that the Sampler team is based in Lyon, in France, which is a really gastronomic city. Basically, when they don't code, these people just think about eating and about food. So that's why each version is named after food. Doriyaki, and the next one we start with E, etc. So hi to Sampler team in Lyon. Okay, so what we are going to do is to create a new document first. So I'm just creating this, and directly it will load the UI with different elements that I'm going to present with you. The first one in the middle is the 3D and 2D viewport. They allow you to see your object. So just for the sake of showing everything, I'm going to apply a material just right now so you can see. So this way we can talk about it. So what I'm going to do, as all my my live stream, I'm first going to show the different spaces. Then I'm going to explain. I'm going to go back to them to explain how they work. So first, here you have the 3D view, which allows you to visualize your material in 3D. By default, then you have like the 2D view, which allows me to see the different channels composing my material. On the left, you have this toolbar, which is used to help you make tile a material. We'll see that later. And then you have the project here, which, as you say, a project can be composed of multiple elements, meaning multiple materials, as you can see, but also environment lights and 3D object. So one project can compose everything. Hey, Lores, like your name. So hi everyone, don't hesitate to tell me where you are watching from. Below the project, so this is the current element which we are building here. And below you have the asset part. So by default, you should come in all libraries on this screen. This is all the potential elements, tools, materials, images, filters that you can use in your project. And of course, you have this one by default, but you can import more. Bottom left, you have few menus. One, which is the viewer settings, which allows you to set up what you see here. Then you have the shader settings, we are going to see that later, and the channel settings. Once again, we are going to see all of this later on. So we have seen the 3D view, the 2D view. On the right, you have the properties and layers. So in your case, if it's the first time you're opening it, it should look like this. You have the layers on top, so this is the current layer. You have some elements here, and below you have properties which are going to change depending on which layer is selected. Finally, on the right, you have few elements that I'm going to explain later on. So let's go back first to the project view. So in the project, as I say, that's where you are going to visualize and create the main elements you are going to work on. in Sampler, you can either create materials, environment, lights, and 3D objects. So to create them, you just have to click here to create a new material, or here to new environment light. I'm just click again to showcase, or new 3D object here. Then you have to validate, but I'm not going to make it right now. You can also import other elements starting from here. So from 3D asset, from you can import directly in the layer stack, or from my asset, which are there. So there is different way to do. Also, I didn't mention, this is, I put the UI in English. We are in an English spoken live stream, but there are different languages which are supported. So if you prefer to work in your own language, this is something that you can do. Detroit, nice, low res. Let's continue. So here, as you can see, I have my untitled material. I can give a name. I will do it later on. And then now let's see the asset. So on the asset, as you can see, this is the library of everything that you can use. So if you type all libraries, this will showcase all the resources that are linked to the asset here. So by default, you have these all libraries with some starter assets. They are here, they are the same, and you can import more. You should have your asset just above. I had to reconnect it by hand because I had a hard drive problem. But if you want, for example, if you have resources like substance material that you want you to use and see directly within this assets panel, you can just click on the plus here. You just browse up to where you have your elements, your materials, for example, here. And you just select a file. Sorry, it's in French, but it's written select a file. So you can just select a file, a folder, sorry, and it will be added to your library. Then, now let's see the most important part to navigate, which is the 3D view and the 2D view. These are sorry, I'm mixing languages. This is only to visualize your material in that case. It's not really important. The object is not important. As you can see, you have a plane because you are not going to export the object from here in that case for a material, but just to visualize. So how to navigate first? If you want some information about this, you can look at the eye. You see that you will see that there is places where you have eye like information, which will give you tips and tricks, information to help you work. So for the navigation, you see that you have to hold Alt or Option in Mac. And if you do left click, I will do an orbit around my 3D object. If I do middle click, I will do a pan, and if I do right click, I will do a zoom. Yeah, if you have a mouse wheel, you can also do make the zoom with the mouse wheel. This is a 3-button mouse, and I really recommend to go with this. Other mice may be difficult to use. So if you want to go into 3D, it's better to invest in a 3-button mouse. Now, so we know how to navigate. You see that you have also other information. At the bottom left, this is the time which is necessary to generate the latest content. For example, here if I hide and I click again, you will see that it will start to calculate and say, okay, 8 milliseconds to calculate this. This is obviously depending on your workstation, the material you are going to use, and the resolution, but it gives you a fair idea of the times. Some filters are longer than others. For example, the artificial intelligence one can take longer time. Then if we continue here, you see that you can set up the camera field of view here, which may be useful to mimic a context of where your material is going to be. 45 degrees is quite nice to start working. Just here you have the displacement, which allows you to, I have some, I'm going to decrease the resolution because sometimes when I noticed that OBS, which is my streaming tool, is taking a lot of GPU resources. So I'm going to put it a lower resolution, By the way, it shows you that you can change the resolution here. This is non-destructive, which means that if you upscale the resolution, all the details will be regenerated. So here we have the height scale. So what is it? It allows you to change, well, the scale of the displacement, which is driven by the height map, meaning this map in that case. It takes this value to drive how high is each element. And what it does, as you see, it really modifies the geometry. So if you want to be more precise, you can change the displacement quality and it will just tessellate the mesh, which means divide all the faces to give you more polygons to move. I'm going to move it lower once again. Now, all these elements here are shortcuts, meaning that they are used a lot. But if you want to have more control on the viewport that we see here, you can go in viewport setting here. So once again, what you are going to change here does not affect your material. This is just to control the way it looks within Sampler. So in order to work better or to mimic, for example, the final environment where you are going to use your material. You can choose, for example, different objects. I like to take the rounded cube as I'm going to, as this is a floor, something flat is right. But if you are working, for example, in fashion and you want to make a fabric, you see that you have other elements which are available. Does not work with this material in particular, but they are here. So I'm going to get back to something which makes more sense. I like the rounded cube because I can see first the flat, how it applies in flat elements like this, and also there is a small curve here, so it can be helpful as well. You also have the tiling here that I didn't show, which is the repetition of your material. Once again, generally you want your material to repeat perfectly, so you have to watch this out. And here you can continue. You can also change the display, the offset. I'm going to put it back to 0. You can change the rotation of the material. Once again, this is just to visualize. You can change also the environment map. So here, for example, if I want, I can put another lighting like this one. This one, for example. This one is a bit funky. Once again, don't forget that you are here to create the material and not necessarily to do the final render. So I would invite you to keep a neutral color while you are working. If not, it's going to be hard to visualize. If you play with the base color and want to change the color, with this pinky environment map, it may be difficult. So better to start with something neutral, and maybe if it's after for final visualization, you can choose another one. But yes, once you are working, I would take a neutral one. Same for shadow. Here I can activate shadow, which is great. That said, when I work, I prefer to deactivate it, first because it's faster, and second because I can see better what is going on in the darkest part. Once again, if you need to work, you can to showcase, you can activate it. By the way, you will see that when you move, you have like a really black shadow. So don't worry, it's because it's a cumulative shadow technology. So when you release, the shadow is going to be smoother. It's normal. And so on. So you can go here, you can change the color of the background. You see that I have a darker bottom compared to top. You can do a rotation in the environment. By the way, you can do this as well with Shift right click. Once again, I'm going to deactivate the shadow. Shift right click like that. And you can choose the way the camera is projected. So perspective, which is the natural way, or orthographic if you have to do some projection. and you want a mathematical view. This is a view that just flattens all the perspectives. So it looks, even if it's some points are farther, they will look the same scale than the one which are in front of. So this is not natural. If you want to work in natural condition, stick to perspective. Then once we have here, so we have seen this, you can also affect the shader. So the shader, it's I explained it in other videos. It's a small program, a small routine, which is going to talk with your GPU and your game engine to define how the material should look. So it will define all the rules to display your material. This shader will be fed by all the texture you are creating to give more detail about the base color. So what about the base color? What about the roughness? If I take, for example, here, if I hide this and just add a base material like this one, this is a base material, so there is no texture in this one. So it's just sending plain information like, okay, base color is gray, roughness is this value, normal, there is no normal map, so it's a flat one. So the shader is just is something which you have in any game engine, any engine, a 3D engine, I want to say. So this is a 3D engine in front of you. You have one in Painter. Anything that displays 3D is a 3D engine. So you need to have this information, and here you have some parameters. So let me remove this and reactivate this. So this shader in Sampler has some parameter. You can, for example, change the scale intensity of the normal scale of the normal. If I look at the normal map here, it doesn't change, but that's just the way the shader is going to interpret this. So these are parameters. You can play with that, the height scale. Once again, this is specific to Sampler. So if you play with this, just think, what do I want to do exactly? If you want to mimic a shader that you are going to use somewhere else in Unity, Unreal, Blender, etc., you can play a bit with this. But by default, it should work well, and we tend to try to, with all the partners like Blender, Unreal, etc., to be as close to one-to-one as possible. So we respect the metallic roughness or specular glossiness standards to get as close to the same result from one application to another. So just play with this if you want to try, or if you have specific use, but if not, just leave it as is. And finally, here, for example, we have a material. As you should know, in physically based material, you have specific channels which store the information like the base color, the metalness, the roughness, etc. So these are here. These are these maps. By default, you have this one, the base color, normal, roughness, metallic, etc. But in some specific case, once again, you may need some more information, like an emissive map if you want to make some lights, for example, or an isotropic if you want to make brush aluminum. So if you need that at some point, you can say, okay, let me look at this additional channel, and you see that you can have a lot. So if you need more stuff, more effects, just activate them here, and it will create a new channel to store this information. By default, once again, you can leave it closed. So we have seen material, asset, this, and this 3 menu. What I want to show you as well is the 2D view. Contrary to Substance Painter, for example, where we display in the 2D view a material version of a flat material version of what you are creating, here we made the choice to separate per channel. So you have the base color, normal, roughness, metallic. Personally, I really like this because I prefer to visualize the material in the 3D view, but still, it makes sense in Painter because as we are sometimes painting in the 2D view, it's still useful. Yet the philosophy is different here. You can see also here in the 2D view that you have a layer input or layer output on material output. So I'm not explaining now, but what it does is material output, it shows you the final result, while layer input, it will show you the result before the current layer is activated. It will make more sense later on. So here we said we can change the resolution, and here you can change if you want to see the 3D and 2D views, 3D only, 2D only. You can change also the way it's displayed. In my case, contrary to Painter, where I prefer to get only the 3D view most of the time, here I like to have both. Once again, it depends of what I'm doing. For now, I'm going to hide the 3D view. Why? Because I want to show you that there is something cool in Sampler. Is sometimes when you add a filter, you will see that the 2D view is popping up. Why? Because there are some filters where we know you will have to make some work in the 2D view. So Sampler developers made the choice to say, okay, we are going to open it for you so you don't have to do it manually, which is cool in my opinion. Now, we know how to navigate. We have seen the 3D 2D view. We have seen the layers, but let's look a bit more closer. So you see that just adding a layer like this, we have the material which is displayed, which is great. You can hide a layer just by clicking on the button. Don't forget that when you will put it again, it will be regenerating, although there is some cache which is made. So it's faster than if you put it for the first time. Then you have some information here. New to the latest version, you can now display the document size. So you just click here, it will display it, and then you can switch it on off, and you can define the layer input minimum. So for example, if you import a small images, then you put an upscale, you can define the maximum or the document size, which is this one. So in my case, I won't play with this for this demo, so I leave it hidden. You can also add new layers. So if I click on this, it will open a menu with all the filters. So it would maybe a good idea to rename this, because it's not add layer, it's add filter, because a material can be a layer as well. But still, you see that here you have all the filters, and you can also look for one of them directly by typing here. There is another way to do that. You can press wherever you want and press spacebar, and you will have the exact same menu, a bit like in Substance 3D Designer. Then you can create a base material, which may be useful if you are making a new project. Let me put it below. You see that I can reorder them just by drag and dropping them. And by the way, as I have a wide screen, I'm going to move this. You see that you can undock just by taking a panel, just by taking by the name. And if I leave it, it will be completely undocked. And I can dock it at another place if I want. So I like to work like this, with the properties close to my scene and the layer on the right. Now, the base, let me hide that for at the moment. Base material, as I say, is just a starting point. So if you create a new material from scratch, that could be a good idea to put a base material where you can define, well, the base parameter for each channel, like base color, roughness, metallic, etc. So let me delete that for now and reactivate this. You see that when you select a material, I have all the parameters. So all the material that you have in the library. So here in the library, I can filter by type. So let me filter by material. These are Substance materials, which means they have been created either in Substance 3D Designer or Substance 3D Sampler. And they are here for you, and they have all the advantages of Substance 3D material, which means first, they look great, but most importantly, they do have parameters, so you can play with them, and well, I'm going to put something, play with them and adapt them to your need, which is something super cool. This is not really good. Let's do something like this. So I won't detail all of this, because once again, basic parameters are specific to each material and defined by the artist who created the Substance material. You also have the technical parameters, which are shared between material, which means that this is sampler which is adding that. You can change the luminosity, the contrast, hue, saturation, etc. So these are additional material parameters. In that case, you also have different kind of presets. So once again, defined by the artist, which are great starting point to work on. So this is not a new version. This is just the artists who play with the parameters. As you see, if I change, it will change the parameters here. It's just to help you start somewhere. Now, let's see how to create. There are different ways to create a material. So let's take an example. Like first, let's start from scratch. So I'm going to take like something like I have a mud, so I like to start. Or maybe we can take the one I just took right now in your asset. This is something I imported from Substance 3D asset. I'm going to show you later on how to do that. So I have this material. I'm going to put a plane like that. And now, how does it work? Let's say I want to add some sand. So I'm going to put another color, something like that, just for the sake of having some contrast. Let me go back to all libraries, and I want to add sand on top of that. So I have a material of sand, and in order to do this now, I have two choices. I can drag and drop it here, like in Painter, for example, or here, also like in Painter. The advantage of dropping it here is that you can choose where in the layer stack you want to add this. I want to add this on top, so I'm just going to release it, and the sand is going to be applied. But if you compare to Designer, you see that there is already a blending with the previous layer, my ground. So what did just happen? So if you look here at the first one, you see that you have the material icon here, but the new one you also have this button, which is the blending control. And also, if you look, if I select the first one, you see that this part is grayed out. I cannot do anything, but as soon as I select the one on top, I have this menu, which is the blending mode, which means that I can select directly the way it blends with the content below it. Don't worry, Lores, we are going to see how to make a material from a photo. So here, for example, I am in high blend. So if this is the menu this is the mode, and if I want to control exactly how it blends, I just click on this and I have the high blend parameters. So first one, I can, here I have random seed, which is not that useful in that case, but I have here direction from bottom. As it's sand, yes, I prefer from bottom because I want to start from bottom and to go upper. So I have the offset, which let me choose how many sands as one. And you see that it will make all the blending for you and adapt the height map accordingly. So if I do this, I can change, for example, this. I can say, I'm going to try based on the ambient occlusion, which is going to look at the cracks of the material to put the sand. So let's see if it works well for me. Let's change the balance, and maybe it will work, maybe not. We'll see that. Not that bad, but you see that the sand is a bit too big for me. So you have like here a top material scale, and I can change that to something that makes more sense for me. Here the texture resolution is low, so if I put in 248, you see that everything will be reprocessed for me. This is done, so now I have a bit more details. Also, you can see that the sand right now has too much, the height range is too big, so I can go back to my material. So once again, I have all these parameters, and what I can do in technical parameter, I will say I want to diminish the height range because this is sand. So if I put it to something really low, I don't want that much value. And if I'm not wrong, here I have something which is great. You have a lot of materials which are made by different artists, and sometimes I have a tone for this which is like dark gray, and I put a sun which is like way brighter, and I want to match them together. So you can do this by using this parameter, which is bottom material color match, which will look at the color below and blend them together. So I can be really strong. I don't want to be that extreme, but I can inherit some of the tint of what's below. And also I'm going to change the contrast to get something more contrasty. And I'm going to smooth out the mask a bit. Okay, so this is a way to make material. I can put other details. Here I have blended two materials together. But as you have seen, there are three types of resources. So we said material here, but we also have images. In my case, I don't have right now. And you have filters. So filters, as I said at the beginning, are specific tools that have a specific usage. That's the philosophy. We say, okay, fashion designer needs something like embroidery, so we will make an embroidery filters. And in my case, for example, let's say that I want to add water on this. Well, we made a water filter. So if I type water here, you see that now if I click, it will be added on top. And now I have water directly on my material. So let me put again my cube, so we can appreciate a bit more. And here, once again, as it's a filter made in Substance 3D Designer, I don't have any blending mode because this is defined directly in my filter. But what I can do, let me go back to 124. Less details, but more stability for the live stream. So what I can do is I can choose the water level, for example, here, and define something like this. So you see, with only three filters, we have a material that just works like this. For example, I'm going to change that. So really quickly, you can blend resources together to gain a new material. So that's the philosophy of Substance 3D Sampler. Taking specific materials to blend them together, adding some filter on top of it to get new content. If you would have to do that in a designer from scratch, you would have need a bunch of nodes, honestly. So once again, it's a different level of abstraction. Now, so I'm going to name this one, and we're going, wet ground, for example. I can make another here if I want, and like this, sorry, oops. There is a character that he didn't like, so rename wet ground. And let me show you another example. So first I'm going to create a new material. As you see, you can have multiple materials. So you create a new blank 3D object for me. And for this one, let's say I want to make a parquet. So once again, I don't want to start from scratch. So that's not the philosophy. You can also use the Substance 3D asset to find some resources here to get a starting point. So for my parquet, I already have wood here. So I'm going to material, I type wood, and I have, for example, this oak wood that I'm going to drag and drop. Really easy. And I'm going to press spacebar. You see here small stuff I want to tell them, because if I click here and I do spacebar, you see that I'm remaining here. And even if I go here, I really have to click to a parameter to get out of this. So spacebar, parquet, like that. And now you will see that directly this tool makes me a parquet. Super fast. I can change. I have the parameter offered by the artist who created this magnificent tool. You can choose the type of parquet to get something that really fits to your needs. So single herringbone, square brackets. You can choose the X and Y amount like this. So you have the full control. Well, you have the control offered by the artist, but you don't have to stop there. I can say, okay, I want to add some dirt because well, maybe before to add some dirt, I'm going to add some plunk variation because it's an older. So you see that now it offers more variations. You can add a dirt on top of that. So it will look at the ambient occlusion and make it a bit more dirty for you. You get the idea. Another one. For example, I take a concrete here. Concrete, clean concrete, or mostly clean concrete. Let's take this, for example. Just trying this one for the first time, I think. So I have this mossy concrete. If I click on that to just get, I will type pavement, and you see that directly just from a concrete and a material like that, I have something that fits. Can go there once again, change the color, get something desaturated. This one again, and this one also, because I don't want. So you can play with everything like this and get some pretty interesting result in a quick way. Pavement here, you can say, okay, I want random elevation, and I want to add some snow maybe on top of that. So once again, you see that it took me like few clicks to get something that makes sense. So here, let's diminish that. Something like that. You get the idea. So you mix materials and filters up to the point you get something. As I just want to show last example, which is for fashion industry. Sometimes you want to make new patterns, for example in Illustrator, and then apply them and make a fabric from it. So let me first create another material, and I'm going to show you a technique. As it's a fabric, I'm going to use this object, and instead of starting from scratch, what I'm going to do is to look at an image I have here. So this is not exactly what you want for now, low res, but it will come. So here I have a fabric pattern SVG that I downloaded on Adobe Stock, but you could have done it in Illustrator, for example. As long as it's SVG, it's sampler can read it. So I'm just drag and dropping it. And when you do that, you have a different option. You have image to material that we will see just after. That's what is interesting you, Lores. Multi-angle to a material, we'll talk about that. Texture import and use as bitmap. I'm going to cover this after. So in my case, I just want to import it as bitmap, meaning that I just want to say, I don't want to specify what type of image it is, not right now. So by default, when I import that, it asks me the width. Let's put something smaller just to work, and import. And as you see, it's imported here, but it does nothing. Why? Because right now, it doesn't know what it is. Is it a normal map, a roughness map, base color? We don't know. What we know is that we do want to create a fabric material. So we have starting points here. So if I look at my material, I type fabric. I have different types like denim, flannel, jersey fabric, etc. In my case, I'm going to take the flannel one, for example, which is nice. And you see that once again, substance material, I have a bunch of parameters here. But what I'm interested in is changing the base color and putting this fabric pattern instead. So if I click on it, you see that the output usage by default when imported is scan 1. And if you import multiple images at the same time, it will be scan 1, scan 2, scan 3, etc. We can see that here. You see that base color is here, and if I go here, you have scan 1, which is mine. So what I want to do is to switch this image from scan 1 channel to base color channel. So to do that, we have a filter, which is you type switch or channel, and you will see the channel switch. So what I say I want to, as input a channel scan 1 and put in base color. So let's go here, let's go down, you have scan 1 here, and now you see that it's in base color and it works well. It works well. What you can do when you are here, you can also change the opacity, getting something like which will blend with the material below, or you can even change the mode here and say, okay, I want in overlay mode, for example, to get something that blend in a more natural way. You could add a blur on top of that to get something. So this is a way to create a fabric which is extremely easy. I'm going to show you also that you can play with color. Once again, this is something that we want to create materials, but also we want to offer flexibility to the user. So what I'm going to do is showing you two ways to control the color of the elements, even if it's like a static image at first. So we are going to look at our filters. I'm going to type color, and you see that you have color replace and color variation. So let's start with color replace. Color replace lets you control one color in particular. So how does it work? I'm going to first to show you something. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to hide this, the 2D view at the moment and apply it again. Oops. Color replace to show you that it opens you automatically the 2D view, which means that you have to work a bit in the 2D view. And if you look properly, you see that you have this small point here. So this small point is the color that you are going to pick. For example, if I go here, I will say, okay, I want to replace the green color here. You can play with the luminosity, the color to get more control. Maybe something like that. For luminosity, no. Let me check. Up to the point I have something that I like this. So here I am controlling this color, and now you see that I have a target color here that allows me to play with the color and offer the control to the final user. This is a way. There is a second one that I like, which is color variation. So color variation is going to look at your document, and first you will specify how many colors do you have in your document, and it will try to segment your image per color. So I'm replacing the base color, and I have something like 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have something like 8 colors maybe. You can see doing that, you will add some zone. Something like this. And just for the sake of this example, I'm going to go back to the channel switch and put myself in copy mode, so we have really defined zone. But of course, you don't have to do that in your final example. So color variation, so maybe not that much color. Like this is fine. So you see that colors have changed, but most importantly, you see that now you have like 7 colors and a 7 color slot that corresponds to this one, which means that if I want to change this color, I can go here and play with this, and now I do have the control on this. This is a shame that overlay, because no, I don't like that. Okay, for the example, we are going to keep it this way. Now, this is great, but at the moment, I can only control this parameter within Sampler, which is nice, but the idea is to create a substance material to share with the team, and maybe if you are working in fashion or even in game or VFX, you want to give this material to an artist who will be able to choose the final color, or to it can be a CMF designer who is in charge of picking the color depending of the season, for example. So how can we do that? Well, this is quite recent. I think a year ago we introduced the ability to expose parameter within Sampler, which this was something that was only possible in Designer before, and now in Sampler it's possible, and it's pretty easy. The only thing you have to do is to click on a color. Like, let's say I want to offer the control on this and the background on maybe this. Okay, so we can see the color. So we say the background is the white one, so I can do right click, expose. I'm going to, we say this one, so it corresponds, it's this color. Once again, expose, and this pink, expose. And you see that now you have blue points, which means that these parameters are exposed. And if you export at the substance format, the final user will have this parameter. So how do we control that? How we check? Because as you see, there are many, there can be many layers with different parameters. So there is this menu here, which is expose parameter, which will gather all the parameters that you have exposed. And you can also right click on it and edit the name. We should maybe change this and say rename, because the only parameter you can edit is the name. So you can say color 1, apply. I'm going to do edit color 2, and let's take a color 3. And now you have these 3 colors which are exposed for the final user. Super easy, and it will work. So, which is going to lead me to the next menu that I want to show you, how to export a material. Fairly easy. You go to this menu, we'll see a physical size and metadata later. You go to export, and here you have different options. The first one, as we are in the Substance 3D ecosystem, you can directly send to one of our applications. For example, here, let's do send to Stager. So it will generate a SBS AR. It will launch, as you can see just here, it will launch Substance 3D Stager, create a new scene, import the material in the material preset on the here, and then it will be available to apply. So if I take, for example, this wonderful sofa here, you can take this and drag and drop on the sofa, and now you have this wonderful material directly on the top with the different parameters. First I'm changing here, maybe I'm going to apply it as well here, here and here. And what you can do is you see that I have the 3 colors here, so I can really change, and you will notice that I have 0 taste for my house, but at least you see that it works perfectly. You have your material within a Stager, and I sent it in 1 click, and I have the parameter which are exposed. So this is super handy, and if you want to buy this sofa, I will put a link in the description. Of course not, this is a joke, but you see that it works super nice and it's super easy to control. So let me close that. You can also export this way. Let's say that you want to use it out of the Substance 3D ecosystem. You can do export as. So you will have a name that you can change for the material. By default, it takes the name here, but as I didn't change it, it's a default one. You choose where to export it. You can create a subfolder, so you make sure everything is clean. And then here you have the material settings. So you can choose in which format you are going to export it. By default, you have the Substance 3D asset file format. If you are working in an application that supports this format, I would really recommend to use this one, because it will be easier to control. You will keep the parameters, and you will avoid possible errors, because this one you just plug it and it should work. Most of the 3D application, serious 3D applications support the Substance 3D format. You can also have the Substance 3D designer file, which will create a graph, not only bitmap, but a full graph that you can continue to tweak within Substance 3D designer. This is really cool. Then you have different format, XR, JPEG, PNG, which are going to export the maps individually, but let's not forget that in that case, you will lose the parameters, of course. Lores is asking, so when we start from a plane in sampler, is it a tile-level pattern on export? It depends. This maps in particular was tiling by default. So if I do T here, I can see, and you see that this is tiling. Actually, it wasn't here. That's weird. Anyway, if it's not tiling here, you see that I will see the repetition somewhere. Yet we are going to see that right now. There is way, if you have a map that an image that doesn't tile, to make it tile. We are going to see that now. So we have seen how to create a material from scratch. It took a long time. It allowed me to show a bit all the UI for materials. Now, what if you want to create a material from an image? As we said, Sampler is the bridge between your real world and the wonderful digital world, as it allows you to digitize materials, lighting, or objects. So let's start with material. So I have a folder here, and I have few images. You see here, and I'm going to use this one because I took 248. This is an image that my friend and colleague, I think this one is Baptiste. Yes, it's Baptiste Manteau, who is the product owner of Substance 3D Sampler, gave me. First of all, before to do that, I'm going to put a plane once again, like that. So this image does not tile, but we are going to make it tile and convert it into a material. To do this, you just have to drag and drop here, like that, and you will have this screen. So I'm going to spend a bit more time on this screen. The first one is when you drop one image, it asks you, it prompts you, do you want to make a material from this image with image to material? That's what we're going to do. We have two options, the AI powered and B2M. So I know that artificial intelligence, maybe people say, okay, it's the trendy word. Is it good? Yes, it is in that case. And we improved it a lot since the latest version. The B2M one is more the historic version that we had to create material. It's good, it works quite well, but most of the time the AI powered is way better. Then you have different things that you can do with other image. You have this option when you import multiple images, which is called multi-angle to material. I won't spend a long time on this, but this is a way to scan material, meaning that you put a camera and you have a setup which allows you to lit your flat material from different directions, like 8 directions, and combining all this information within Sampler allows you to reconstruct a material with this technique, which gives you, oh, a mosquito here. Oh, no, I didn't kill it, next time. So it allows you to reconstruct in a really efficient way, but you need a higher setup. We actually made a tutorial on our website to explain how to build your own 3D scan box using this technique. Texture import means if you made the material somewhere else and you already have base color, roughness, metallic, normal map, etc., well, you can use this technique and it will regenerate the material with the information you are providing. And use as bitmap, we have seen that it allows you just to import the image without defining what it's made for yet. Just let me drink a bit. So in our case, image to material, we can define the document size, great. You can add a base material, it can be useful sometimes. In my case, I don't need it. If the image is not a power of 2, like a square ratio, it will ask you if you want to crop it. I noticed a bug in my case. If I put the crop right now, I have a bug. So it's better to add it later on. I hope it will be fixed soon. In theory, yes, they are working on that. You can decide to upscale the materials, but as right now my input image is the same size that my document size, it doesn't propose me because it just says you don't need to upscale because you are already at the right size. If I'm putting in 4K, I now have this option. And set the physical size. This is an interesting and important notion. So setting the physical size is defining, okay, I have an image which is like 2048 pixels, but what is which size it corresponds in the real world. For example, it can be in my image that this image would be 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. And this is something that you want to define, which is really useful for game and VFX, for example, and it's almost mandatory if you work in fashion, product design, any type of materials where the object is going to be produced in the real world. Why? Because it allows you, if the physical size is properly set in your material, and also if your 3D asset is at the right scale as well, to make sure that the material will be displayed at the same scale that it is in the real world. So this is really important to them, because this way they don't have to guess. If they do a fabric, for example, for a shirt, they want to make sure it will appear at the same scale. So that's why it's important. So I'm going to show you how to set this. You just click on it, and by default it's okay, 1 meter by 1 meter. This is based on nothing. This is just a default value, and we have to set it up. So there is 2 tools to do that. You have something that explains here. You have an auto measure. The auto measure will take the information within your image, and especially the DPI information, which are the dot per inch, which means that it says, okay, for example, you know, if you are printing something, it says 300 dots per inch. Here it would be the same. If you know if it's set properly, it can use that, but if you're not sure, it means that it's not set. So better use the manual measure, which is easy to set. So I'm going to do manual measure, and now you see that I have my texture here, and I have a small ruler here, which is telling me 10 centimeters. So the 10 centimeters is something that you can change. I can say 5 centimeters, for example, and I can change it here, and I can move the points. So in my case, I don't have the exact measure, but this is more rocks, and this one I would say it's 2 centimeters. So I can move this here, like that, and it's not 5 centimeters. I say maybe it's 2.5. So here I would say 2.5 centimeters. And it doesn't like the dots, so it maybe become. So I'm going to do the other way because it doesn't let me. So I'm going to put maybe 5 centimeters, and say from here to here it should be 5 centimeters more or less. If you have a picture with a ruler, a real world ruler, that's even better because you can use it and crop later on your image. But this, I would say I'm close to the reality, like that. I think I'm close. So this will be used to set the physical size, and also it will be used by the system to help reconstruct the material. So I'm doing done here. You see that now it said, okay, with what the information you have giving me, it means that this map is more or less correspond to 29 centimeters by 29. So you do import, and here what will happen is first you have like the image which is imported, and then you have an image material which is going to start. It's a bit long, but not that much either. And it depends of the size of your original image. That's why I reduced it for the sake of this tutorial. And now we have the material. So by default, we see that, let me put just the 3D view, 3D only like that, that I'm going to add also a bit of scale, height scale, like this, and it made a great job importing the image. You see that it's really well balanced, so it works great. That said, I still have few controls here that I can change. I can say, okay, I want to get a bit more micro details maybe, and give some more space to the medium details. So you can play with that to get something that works. It really depends on what you are doing. Large detail, I don't think I can add a bit more. Okay, so I have something that I like. Let me diminish again the scale here. And I'm happy with that. You have also, you can define the ambient occlusion strength, which is once again how the object is shadowing itself. Like my fingers, you see that it's darker within my finger because they are auto shadowing themselves. You can define the type of material, if it's matte or shiny, etc, etc. So you have few parameters here. So low-res, that's the part that is interesting you. So first, you see that it works quite well by default. What you want to check as well, you see that while it's well balanced, etc., you see that you still have a seam here, because that's not what this filter is doing. And also I want to double check if it's flat, let's say overall flat. So I can do 3D 2D. So this is my scan 1, my imported image, my base color. You see that it makes a great work at removing all the lighting. And what I want to look at, it's my height map. And it's quite nice, although I have a small band, dark band. Honestly, it's not a lot, so I can live with that. But if it would have been too much, before we used a filter called equalize. We won't use it a lot more, I think, because the result is so good. But this, what it does, it equalizes the height map in our case, just to make sure that everything is well balanced. If I put it to 0, you will see that it will flatten everything. That's not what we want. But I can move it up a bit to get something a bit more uniform. Once again, now the AI make an incredible job fixing these values, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about that. Now, to make it tile, well, we say tile, so a good way sometimes when you want to do something is just to press spacebar and type tile, and you, well, I would put tile, T-I-L, because you have make it tile and tiling. So these are two techniques to make it tile. Tiling is a bit more recent and generally works well for most of the thing, but both are made to tile, so you can try one or the other. For today, we are going to try this one. And what it will do is it will look at the borders and try to find correspondences between each side. So you see that by default, it works quite well, although you still have some default. So you can help it a bit. So here I'm going to put the base color like that, or maybe let me check. Height map maybe easier for me to try. Here, if you want to see how it works, you can show the seam, and you see that here, you see it here as well. It shows where it cuts. Or in that case, you have the edge parameter to define how it cuts, and you also have the area, the space where it looks to try to find correspondences. By default, there is not a lot because, well, it's really on the border. So what you can do is to try to reduce a bit here the size on each side, so it will give the algorithm more place to look at. So I'm going to hide this for now. And you can play with the threshold, so it will look farther, but watch out, because if I put it too much, you will start to get some zone. Oh, not that much here. So I'm going to do this way, look a bit from far. It's not that bad. Then once I start having something that I like, and honestly, I like it right now, you can add a bit of blur like this, so it will be completely invisible. You can also change the grid resolution. Well, you can see what it does. It will define the detail of the path. So if you put 8:9, it's good, but if you have like big details, you can lower this. Or on the contrary, if you have really grainy details, you can increase this value. So there is no good value. It really depends on what you are doing. But in my case, I have something that works. So right now, low res, you can see it's tileable. You see it here, and you can still play with that. You can say, okay, I want to change the color. So you can add an adjustment, for example. No, there is another one. Can't remember the name. Let me check. Add a layer. Atlas blur, recall. Color variation, we have thinny, colorize, cracks, adjustment, I can find it. Well, yeah, I will let you look, but once again, I can say let's add some moss, or for example, like this, and it will start to add some moss on top of all of this. Too much by default. And I don't like in that case, maybe because I want to do overall occlusion top. Yes, why not? Something like that, for example. You can change the color, etc., etc. So you get the idea. That's how you would build material from scratch here. And once again, you can export it, blend it with another material, etc. So I think we are good for material. I'm just making another one to show you with another image really quickly. Like something is more, I won't make it tile, but to show you that once again, you can take something like this, image to material. I can set the physical scale for this one. Once again, I would say that this is 10 centimeters, for example, really quick because I want to show you other stuff. And here it's importing the value, and I can change in image to material the kind that is here. Here it's more ceramic in my opinion. So you can change the type here and it will adjust a normal height to make it, and also the way it shines to get something closer to the final result. So it's still watching. Here we have something that works directly, and once again you can play, you can put a color replace, expose the parameter, etc. So these are great tools to explore. Now we have seen for the material, of course there is a lot to explore. I really invite you to press filter and to look at all the different filters that you have to make some tests. It's as easy as adding a layer on your layer map. Just try also how it blends. It's super easy, and it's also you will spend a lot of good time doing that. Here, for example, I would change the roughness value. Let's see, something like that with variations. Now, let's see how to create let's see, we are going to start with the 3D object. So 3D object is called, it's a 3D object capture. So if I do new 3D object, we are going to enter a mode which is based on a technology which is called photogrammetry. So photogrammetry consists in taking an object, taking pictures of an object with all different angles. So you will take like 40 to 60 pictures. The more picture you have, the more precision, more information you will get. The better your camera, also the better will be the final results. Although you can start with a smartphone, it will work perfectly. We are super proud of that because before having it into Sampler, you had some dedicated tool, but they were costly first, and they were, well, dedicated tool. Here, it's directly within Sampler, so which means that for the same price, you almost have a new software, and you will see that it's super efficient. So for this example, I'm going to use images that my friend and colleague and boss, Wes McDermott, let me check here, made for one tutorial he published on our channel, Substance 3D channel. So let me look at photogrammetry 3 stamp. So what was did is some pictures of a trunk in close to his house. It was a cloudy day, so it's almost starting a novel, but it was a cloudy day. Why? Because this way you have less shadow in your final results. So in order to work well, photogrammetry has some stuff that you have to know. First, if you have like a really reflective metallic object, it won't work well. If you have a transparent object, it won't work well either. And if you have a really uniform object, like for example full white, it won't work well either. Why? Because the algorithm is comparing images together and trying to find point that seems to match together. And if it doesn't have all this information, it cannot work well. So if you want to see, like let's say I have this glass which is transparent, and you want to do that, if this glass doesn't have too much value for you, what I would recommend is to spray them with a painting. And if you have a painting with particles, like matte particle, it's even better, so it will add some points. I'm going to make a tutorial with an experience I made to showcase how not to make it, and it was funny. Bye bye Lores, you have to go to a class. Well, this is recorded, so you will be able to see the end later on. So let's look at the pictures. You see that it took this tree with different angle in order to get it from any direction, like this. So what we're going to do is to take all this picture, drag and drop them here, and see. So first it's going to import, meaning look at the pictures, making sure that everything is fine. It will create a photo group here. And from here you have different options. First, you can look at any picture one by one. You will have the name, the size, and the resolution. And on the photo group, you have different options. Once again, you can give a name for the photo group trunk, for example. And then it would have been nice that it changed here as well, but it's not the case. Number of pictures, resolution, and also, if it can, it tries to look at the focal size. Try to find the focal size and everything related to that. So these are the basic parameters, and you have the mask parameters here. By default, there is no mask, but you have the option to create one. Either you can import them or generate here. So why do you want to create mask? Because it allows you to isolate the asset you want to capture. Sometimes it's relevant. In that case, it's not that relevant because, as you see, it's a trunk, but I want also to get the borders, so I won't make mask. But if, for example, I want to, well, let's say I want to scan this, although it's reflective, so it can be difficult, but I will try one day. I want to do photogrammetry with this. I can use mask to say, okay, to isolate these parts so the algorithm knows that this is what you want to export. So you can go into Photoshop and create your mask manually, or you can do generate here and say new batch. So if I do that, you will see that it will create. I'm going to delete them, but just to show you. For each picture, it makes a mask, and it's based on the Photoshop technology for auto-masking objects, so it works great, but here it will be difficult. So I can see the mask here if I want. You see, it doesn't know. Here it's too grainy. It doesn't know what to do. So in this example, this is not a good idea to get the mask. So I'm going to do, let him finish that, or I can cancel, and I'm going to remove all mask, because if I do that, it will break my stuff, because as you saw, the masks weren't good. So there is a question I can answer. I'm going to launch the scan, and in 3D I'm going to answer to you. So here I don't have mask, I don't want mask. I have my image and I'm going to submit. So what I'm submitting it will ask me this, the precision and the photo ordering. So precision, in the previous version, it was just written normal or high. It wasn't written recommended. And for me, as I have a good workstation, I say, well, precision, I want a high precision. The higher, the better, no? So after discussing with the team, they say, no, it's not the case. I say, well, it's a bit confusing in that case. But the thing is, normal means that the algorithm will try to find correspondences within pictures for the points without pushing too much. While high means it will really try harder to find correspondences, which is not necessarily a good idea, because in many cases it will find correspondences that don't exist. So it will make errors at the end. So by default, leave it to normal. If you have problems, maybe you can try high, but in most of the case, once again, stick on recommended. And photo ordering, what is it? You have default or sequence. So default means sampler will take all the pictures, look at them, and try to look randomly correspondences between all the pictures, which means it's a bit longer. Sequences is that sampler is going to look at the photo before and after the current photo. It works only if you make 1 second, meaning that, for example, for this trunk, if Wes have made 1 sequence where it was starting from top and going bottom up to the really bottom, the ground, it would work. But if you do, like in many cases, okay, I'm going to make a round at the top, then I'm going to make a round at the middle, then a round at the bottom, it won't work, because the last photo of the first round will try to be compared to the first photo of the second, and they don't have any comparison point. So, oops, sorry. So by default, if you didn't make like this sequence in one shot, just leave it to default. So let's process that. And now that it takes a bit of time, I'm going to take the question of Indy. So the question was, can the object be exported from sampler, scan clean in another app, and re-imported to sampler to put texture on it? So yes, no. Well, meaning that yes, you can export it from sampler. It's recommended. You can send it to Blender, 3ds Max, Maya, etc. to clean it if you want. And then I would recommend to re-import it in Substance 3D Painter, which is way easier to texture it. Sampler is made to capture object, capture material, capture lighting, to create materials. But if you want to make like a clean work of painting and texturing an object, Painter is better suited to do that for sure. So overall, yes, you can. Let's say in the Substance 3D ecosystem, yes. We may come in the future is in a way to add some specific 3D filters, which means like, for example, if we add snow, we add snow on the full object. But right now, it's not the case yet. But that's something we are thinking about. But for now, not yet. So sampler, whatever application to clean it, and then you go back to Painter if you want to apply some other effects. The processing, we have the processing, and here we go. So what is just happening right now? We have three parts. On the left, we have the pictures, and as you can see, they have a green border, which means that it's a success. The algorithm was able to use this picture in the process of photogrammetry. If it's not the case, sometimes you have 2-3 pictures, sometimes way more, it depends, which are not recognized. In that case, Waze made a great job, so everything is green. If it's orange, it means sorry, but we didn't find any correspondences in this picture, so we didn't use it. But if you have 2 or 3 which are missing, that's not a big deal. If you have half of them, you will have problem at the end. You can see also that something happened in the middle that's a bit weird, like it looks like a bit of points everywhere. And actually this is called a point cloud reconstruction. What is it? This is on the top, this small rectangle is all the cameras, meaning that thanks to the photos, the photogrammetry process was able to locate the camera origin in the 3D space, and that's how it works. So here it's just to double check that everything seems to be well placed. And the other one is say, okay, I was able to place the camera, and from this camera, I'm imagining that the information is somewhere here. So you can double check this way. For example, I can click on the camera here. It will show me the point of view. You can also click on a picture here. So you can see that it looks as if. Sometimes it's hard to interpret, but that gives you an idea of the process. And if you see something completely crazy here that does not look like the object you have in your picture, you can say, there is a problem. Hey, Alexandre, you are late. Where were you? I want you have to give me a paper from the doctor explaining why you are late. So here you can see that yes, it works. I have my approximation. Of course, this is not the final result. And I want, yes, that's what I want to do. But I don't want to make submit yet, because as you see, I have the trunk information, which are super relevant to me. But I see that I have a bunch of points out there that I don't really need. And especially I will have information that will miss here. I'm just interested in this part. So you can filter in 3D the part you want to scan. By clicking here, you see that I have this box, which is this bounding box, which defines what is going to be reconstructed. So with this, I can move, I can rotate with this, and I can change the scale with this. This is inspired from the Substance 3D Modeler widgets, which are awesome. So I'm going to cut here up to here. Yeah. Going to move here like this. and like that, and we're going to finally do it on this part. And I'm going to look horizontally if I'm okay with that. And I think it's fine. So what I'm going to do now, I can define, okay, now before to submit the geometry details. So full or raw means that it will give me the full details. High, the lower, the faster, and the higher, the more definition, but at the cost of more time. As well in a live stream, I'm going to put into draft to get faster because it takes a bit of time. So I'm going to submit that, and now it's going to use this camera plus the information in the image to reconstruct and reproject the image and the 3D model and the texture. So let's do that, and I'm going to look at the excuse from Alexandre to see if it's acceptable. You. On stage you're playing with a bass, but I can give you a letter from my doctor. Can I give you a letter at Max? Yes. So Alexandre works in the Adobe Substance 3D team, and he's going to be at Adobe Max, and me too. So if you are in Los Angeles in October from I think 13 to from 12 to 13, say hi. We can have a drink. And yes, I will have a drink with Max, with Alexandre, sorry, and I will take your doctor paper to see if it's available. So as you see, it's processing. As it's a lot of time, the sampler team has had the great ideas to give you some tips and tricks, which is great. They give you at the end of the process, but still, it's nice that so if it doesn't work, you may know why, because they explain you. So now it's reconstructed, so you see that it's not that long, but I was in draft. But still, in draft, you have an excellent result. And you see here that I have my trunk, which is reconstructed. I would say not perfectly. You see that here, for example, I may have some details, but still, you have like a really decent result that works super nice. And you can see this just showing the geometry to see how it looks. You can see the wireframe to see how it tried to generate the geometry. You can see also the UVs to see how it's displayed on the UVs. And you have the option to add to project this object directly, or you can create a new one with new parameters. So if you want to do a first pass of cleaning, you can do it here. For example, if I say, okay, this is for video games, I want to put it in the background, so I don't want to spend too much resources on that. I tried with 5,000, but I'm going to put 2,000, something really drastic. You can say, make 2,000 triangle, which is not a lot, but still extract the high resolution model in a normal baking, high baking, and ambient occlusion. So you just process. You have other parameters here that you can play with. I'm processing, and it will generate a new version. So first create a new mesh with 2,000 faces and generate normal map, height map, and everything necessary to make it work. So it's called version 1, and you see that even in 2000, it gives an excellent result. So if we look at the mesh, if you compare one to the other, you see that I have way lower resolution and it works great. Why? Because the magic of normal maps, height map, etc., to reconstruct all these final details here. So that could be more than enough in many solutions. Once I've done that, I can say, okay, I'm going to export that. You can rename, delete. Let's add this to the project. I can give it a name. Trunk map, like this. And okay, and now the scene is going to update really quickly. Bling, bling, bling. Okay, now I have it. So I have my trunk here. So the idea in the future is to be able to add some specific 3D filters, but at the moment we don't have this yet. And from here, once again, you asked me in 3D. In 3D. Interesting. I just get it right now. You can export your mesh. So you do. You can send to Painter, Stager. So for example, let's send it to Painter. Once again, Painter, it will prepare the mesh, the textures, everything you need. and it will launch Substance 3D Painter for you. A good time for me to drink some water. So now that it's here, you see that it creates a new project. It will take a bit of time, like a few seconds, to with Max as Alex, yes. And here we go, you have your model, so that's how you will do. Maybe you can pass through, as you say, in 3D, you can go through Blender to fix a bit if you like, but still, it works. And here, I don't know, there is this multiply factor which make it a bit more, a bit darker, but you can play here, add some stuff. I can say, for example, I have a mud here. Let's put that clay, for example, on top of that, so it will put everywhere. But I can put here a mask. I'm going to. I can put two masks actually. Here, if I play with that, I would have to bake, for example, position, etc. But here, if I put this, let me max by 8 combination. And play with the height here. Add lever. So let me check that. Do this. It doesn't work. Okay, so I won't do it today, but still I'm going to remove this. Compare mask. Okay, I could play with that, play with the height. But rather I'm going just to, you can just paint on top of it. So all the control that you would have in Painter are available. Maybe in another one. I think Wes made a great one from this one to add some snow on top of it, which works well. So he was using baking the map, using the world space normal map to put the snow just on top, and it was working great, honestly. So let me close this, and you can also export as mesh setting FBX. So if you go here, I think you can choose USD, FBX, OBJ, STL, GLB, etc. You have lots of choice. And for the material setting, SBSAR or the texture, you choose yourself. So that was photogrammetry. I hope you liked it. Getting back to another object. Now we are going to see how to create an environment light. So this is not the most common usage, honestly. Few people are using it, but still that's great that we have this, and it's fairly easy to use. And to do this, I'm going to use content made by my colleague and friend Lawrence. He also published on a Substance 3D tutorial a full tutorial dedicated to this. So I'm going to show you really quickly. So the idea of capturing an environment light, once again, you have to take pictures, 360 pictures of an environment, and then you are going to import them here to reconstruct the environment light and capturing all the ranges of lighting from your environment. So there are different techniques. The one we are going to see is we have the 360 image at different exposition. I'm going to show you right now. So first of all, I'm going to say, okay, let's add a new environment light. When I do this, I will have this scene, which shows the ball by default, so I can add an environment that we are going to replace. If you go here, you can decide, okay, I want to see the shadow ball in rough or reflective. This is really up to you, depending on what you want to construct. I like to have it like this because to see the subtlety of the lighting. Now, if I go to my images, Lawrence make a great job of capturing an environment lighting here. So, just here. So what he did is just took images as 360. He had a specific camera which can do that. I don't know if he reconstructed it or there is one specific camera. I won't give the brand. That does that. But what you can see is save at the same environment at different exposition, which will allow us to build an HDR environment map, which means a high dynamic range, a map which will contain all the different lighting information, which allows to lit a scene properly. That's how it works. How to do that? Well, easy. We drag and drop. like this. And once again, we'll have this option. And as you can see, directly as we create, we are in an environment like project right now, element. Here we can see it. It asks you, okay, I recognize that there is multiple images, and do you want to make an high dynamic run merge? That's what we want. We have different runs that we want to merge together. We could have, if we had the environment directly, we could have imported it directly. But in our case, we want to merge it, and 4K is fine because as it's a 360 image, it's good that it's quite big. So you just do import, and you see that it will import all the image here and generate, right now it's merging them, and it will generate the environment for you. So let's wait a bit. You see there is the HDR merge filter, and Lawrence, which is an excellent 3D artist and an excellent photographer, made a perfect image. But we can still play with this. There is a bunch of filters which are useful, and I'm going to show you a few of them. The first one that I want to show you is the one which allows you to fix the horizon. Here you see that it's not exactly flat. So let's see the 2D view only to help us a bit. Like this. So by default, you see that you have like scan 1, 2, 3, 4. As I said, when you import multiple images, by default, it will put it in this slot. I'm going to take something like a bit brighter, like this. And you see that it's not exactly flat. So there is a filter, spacebar, which is called horizon, and you can straighten the horizon. So when you do this, it will create 2 points. So what you have to do is move the 2 points. Let me check. I'm going to do. Okay, so here I have the 2 points, and you see that when I move it, it's like adding a distortion. It moves my stuff. So it's nice, but sometimes it's hard to place at first. So what I'm going to do is first put layer inputs, meaning that you have the content before the filter is applied. In that case, it's quite relevant. So I'm going to try to move it properly here and there to get the same point. But honestly, this is not easy. So in my case, I prefer to go here and to see if I can make something flatter. You can play a bit with that, but it was almost correct from scratch. So I tend to get something better here, which I'm happy with. Now, what I want to do as well is, as you see here, if you do capture, you have the foot of the camera here that I want to remove. So there is another tool that we made for that, which is called the Nadir patch. Nadir patch is Nadir is the guy who created a specific algorithm to fix that in the 360 view. So this is like a stamp tool, but in 3D. So you can place, for example, here the reference point, and it will change here. So in our case, we're going to place it on the same path here, and you see that it removes everything here. You can play here, but by default, now it works well. So this is nice. I can play also, change the color of the HDR, the temperature, etc. But as you see here, the sun comes from here, but as it's the morning, it's not really visible here. So I can improve and add a light just on top of the sun to increase a bit the sunlight. So if I type light, I have different type of light, and I'm going to take a sphere light. So once again, if we look at the 2D view, the sphere light is just there, and the shape is going to adapt depending on where it is. But what I want to do is to place it here. But this is hard because as the round is too high, I cannot see. This is not a problem. I can choose a lower one. Oh, look, I'm almost good. And now with the lower one, I can make sure I place it properly. Now I can choose from that the temperature. So I'm going to diminish it a bit because it's the morning light. That, and you can choose the exposure. So you just crank it up a bit until you get something that you like. This is a bit better. You can choose the size as well. The lower, the sharper will be the shadows. So you can activate the shadow temporarily to see how it goes. So push up the exposure, maybe way more to exaggerate for this example, maybe too much right now. And here we go. So you can play with this and see how it goes, but this is a way. So this is, as I say, this is something which is a bit more, not that use as much as materials or photogrammetry, but still you have the option to capture and build your own photogrammetry. So let me change the view. We are reaching the end of this live stream. So if you have any question, that's the right moment. Alexander is saying Painter is my new friend with my new PC. Yes, with a good PC it really helps. Maybe with the AI a day the work will be more simple. Yeah, as we say, for example, for the material, we already simplify the way to create a material from a bitmap. And of course, we are exploring new ways AI can help the user for creating more content or better content. Let me go there. So we are reaching the end of this tutorial. We have seen how to create material from scratch, how to create a fabric from scratch, how to create material from an image, how to create a 3D model from a set of images, and also we finished with environment light. We also see how to export all of this with or without parameters. If you have questions, I am going to give you 1 minute maybe. Let's see if you have anything to add to all the stuff that we have seen. No problem inside in 3D each time. Okay, no problem in 3D. It says thanks also for the deeper insight. Really happy to be with you here. Next one, I don't know when I will do it, will be about Modeler. Maybe not, I don't know if it will be in 2 weeks or later. I also have to sit with the team. This will be a desktop version of Modeler because I'm not the best with the virtual headset, so I won't pass. And also there is better person to showcase. But for the desktop version, I will sit with the team to make sure that I don't forget anything to show you. Anyway, thank you for watching this live stream and this introduction to Substance 3D Play Sampler. I hope you like it. Don't hesitate to share, subscribe to be notified when there is a new live stream. And we see in the next one, so it will be in 2 weeks. Anyway, thanks again and have a great day. Bye-bye.